Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. How you all doing? We have the latest Manchester United news surrounding transfers. One or two returning from the injury list, potential candidates from the youth products as well. A little bit of news around them, maybe getting more involved going forward in Manchester United squad. It's good to be back. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of a break. And I'm glad to be back. We're going to get into all the latest news in the past 24 hours about Manchester United. But before we do, please smash the like button. It helps us with the algorithm, helps us get pushed out there. So if you want to help us out, just smash the like button. It takes 2 seconds and it's massive help. And if you're new and you enjoy the content, then please subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell icon so you know when we go live. We will be going live multiple times throughout this international break. But yeah, let's get straight into it. First thing to lead us off in this story, and I see a couple of our chat members are here. I'm gonna get to you guys, but let's start with this real quick. This came out today. Ruben Amorim is considering bringing Harry Amos into his plans sooner than expected after his impressive cameo against Leicester before the international break, and plans to give him more minutes in the upcoming matches. And I'm all here for this. There's a little bit of an ongoing joke in the community in here that Harry Amos is my son, because I was going on rants about Harry Amos needs to be given a chance whether he's ready or not. Considering the fact before we had Dorgu, we had absolutely no left back. We have Dorgu. Dorgu's been good since he's come in. He's been performing very well in my opinion. I've watched a few matches while I was away, especially the last couple matches. Dorgu very much impressed. He was very much heavily involved in the match, and just sort of being a nuisance to the opposing team, sort of making things happen, getting on the ball, showing pace, showing strength, showing a desire to get forward, and ability-wise as well. So, I seen a lot of United fans on social media, and I think a piece of news coming out saying that, Manchester United aren't really focusing or going to be focusing on the wing back. Some people really want Frimpong to come in. Obviously, I like Frimpong. If we could get Frimpong, that would be great. And I was also in the belief of, yeah, we got Dorgu, but we probably still need another left wing back, because obviously Shaw is not reliable. Malacia looks set to leave. We sent him on loan, but there's probably no future in Malacia. And I just don't trust Luke Shaw. So in my mind, we have one left wing back in Dorgu, and we definitely need another one. Which, if Harry Amos is the guy, is the kid, I mean, he's one that obviously plays in that position. He's obviously still fairly young, and he's still lacking first team experience. But if we're ready to give him this chance, like we've given some other players chances, like Heaven, for example, who has been very good since he's started appearing and started playing for us, and he's put in some very good performances, and I've been highly impressed with him so far. I'm all here for it, because we need to fill gaps. We need to fill gaps in the squad. We're obviously struggling financially, as some of you have pointed out, and we're gonna have to figure out how to put a squad together that can compete, while not being able to necessarily break the bank. I think we've all heard their Sir Jim Ratcliffe interview. I want to hear you guys. There was a mixed bag. There was some people saying that it was all right. They deemed it honest. Other people deemed it as an embarrassment, and that he was clueless and stuff like that, which is all fine. But yeah, I think the most clear thing that's come out of that is that Manchester United are 100% struggling financially, which is gonna go hand in hand to some of the names that we've been linked to today, and probably over the past couple days as well, but more so today. And we're gonna get into that stuff as well. So, but I just want to get to the chat and shout out Grace, shout out Stephanie, shout out Lionhearts, shout out Lyle. It's all good to see you guys. I hope everybody is doing well. Hope you're all doing good. It's been a while since we last talked. Grace kicked off the show by saying none of these players are coming to United. And that's the end of the show, so enjoy the rest of your evening. Yes, the show's over. That's it. Everybody log off. We'll catch you in the next one. No, I'm kidding. Don't go anywhere. But, you know, she might be right. You know, I'm not even... you know, a little bit of maybe sarcasm in there, but, you know, I think some of these transfers we're being linked to, you know, they fly in the face of our current situation. So it's kind of very hard to kind of take them serious, to see how we would actually be able to get these players that we're being linked with, in this current period in time. Now, maybe, after the season ends, depending on what happens with Manchester United, you know, if United win the Europa League, it can change our outlook. It can change maybe not being able to get one player. We might be able to get that player in the end. But, you know, that's all wait and see stuff. So, you know, Grace says Harry Almas is a weak 2'5" midget. Hey. Listen, the little guys, sometimes they get it done, all right? Lisandro is pretty tough, and he's short. So, Stephanie says Dorgo will feed Rasmus now. Danish connection. Well, I hope so. And we can talk about Rasmus a little bit as well. You know, in the chat that we have offline, you know, there was a little bit of a battle going on yesterday. Because obviously Rasmus Højlund scored the winning goal for Denmark versus Portugal. He then did the celebration, and it kind of lit an unexpected, I guess, fire in the United fan base, with half of the fan base criticizing Højlund, saying that Højlund has no right to be disrespectful towards Cristiano Ronaldo, who is a Manchester United legend, especially with the way that he's been performing this season, and that he needs to leave the club for being a prat, I guess. And then other people were happy for one reason or the other, whether they are still unhappy with Cristiano Ronaldo or for other reasons. My 2 cents on it was, I didn't really, you know, maybe it's a little bit of banter that he did the C and Ronaldo was on the pitch and it was against Portugal, obviously. But I think for a striker that's at Manchester United, that's been lacking confidence, and he's been lacking confidence because he hasn't been playing good. He hasn't been scoring goals, and he's been putting in really poor performances. I think it's you know, I kind of took it as an encouraging sign that, you know, he scored before the international break. He's now scored on international break in a match that matters against Portugal. And you have to have a little bit of confidence. You have to have a little bit of attitude in your character, and a little bit of self-belief to score that goal and do the C. And I think that's important for Rasmus Højlund, because I think for a striker, well, especially a striker, but a striker at Manchester United, you have to have confidence. You have to have a little bit of arrogance about yourself. I think actually one of the things that Rasmus kind of lacks is a little bit of arrogance in him when he's on the pitch. He seems a little bit too nice sometimes. He seems a little bit of a pushover a little bit. I was thinking, you know, if you have a more experienced striker, when they don't give him the ball, when he's in the right position, when he makes the right run, he doesn't really get in the faces of his teammates. He doesn't really shout, yell at them. You know, whereas I would see a more experienced striker be screaming at their teammates that they didn't give him that ball. And I think Rasmus needs a little bit more of that. I do. But yeah. Grace says, wait, is Eric actually Harry Almas with the beard? There's a resemblance. I am short, but I'm not 5'2". And I'm a lot older than the kid. The kid is much younger than me, yes. Lyle says the fan base can be annoying sometimes. Well, we have a large fan base, so there's a lot of different opinions, a lot of thought processes, a lot of different types of people throughout the world. So, yeah, it could get a bit much sometimes, but, you know, it is what it is. Gray says, guys, relax. We're higher than Spurs, and that's okay with me. Well, the thing about Spurs is that, looking at the Europa League remaining table or fixture list, is that there is a high chance that we might meet them in the final. Because we seem to be the two strongest teams out of the remaining teams. And I was thinking about that the other day, actually, and I was like, man, if it ends up United versus Spurs in the final, we really need to win that game, because they clocked us twice in the league, and we haven't been able to beat them this season. And we both had poor seasons. We're now somehow above them in the league, and yeah, if it came to that match, we need to figure out how to win that match, because you can't lose to Spurs 3 times in one season, and you definitely don't want to lose to Spurs and give them a trophy, in the Europa League final, especially when we desperately need to win the Europa League final as well. So, Rajat says, hope that Cristiano will score versus Denmark next time. Then they play. Hopefully it's a nice game. Well, I don't think, Højlund's come out and he said it wasn't any disrespect to Cristiano. It was more of paying homage to Cristiano. He said Cristiano is his idol. Obviously many people took it as disrespect, and that's up to them to take it as it is. The players come out and gave his 2 cents. If you want to believe him. If you don't, you can carry on with whatever you want to carry on with. I didn't really, I bantered my Portuguese friends a little bit about it. I sent them the gift, but it wasn't that big of an issue to me. I didn't go full blown crazy saying that, how can this guy do the celebration to the GOAT? It is what it is on that part. But Richard is here too. Richard, it's been a while. How you doing? Richard says, good to have you back, Eric. Hope you had a good time. I did. I had a really good time. It was good. Saw a lot of the family, a lot of friends, had a lot of good nights. So it's good, but it's good to be back, because I missed doing this. I missed the chat. I missed you guys. I missed talking about United. So yeah, it was good. It's good on both parts, But Rajat says, nah, CR7 got annoyed because they did poor that day. And Gray says, at least the low passes to Rasmus. And Gray says maybe Rasmus should focus on his skincare routine. Come on, don't be so mean to Rasmus. He's trying. He's been poor, and we could criticize him about his game, but if you remember, Cristiano also didn't have the best, Cristiano didn't have the best skincare. I think his teeth were a little bit messed up as well when we first signed him, when he was still kind of sort of nothing. And now he is literally a footballer / model. So, Lyle says, so all the other players who do the CR7 celebration, they disrespect him. Geez, get off it. Just because it's Højlund and a United player, then he gets it again. Well, I get the point you're making there, Lyle. I think the only difference that people will point out is that they don't do it. It wasn't a United player playing against Ronaldo that's done it. There's been times when Ronaldo was still in our team that opposing team players did it when they scored on us in the match. And the other times that players do it when they do the C, they're not necessarily playing against Ronaldo. But yeah, I think people gotten a little bit overboard with it. I think it's more of just the sentiment of that Rasmus hasn't been good this season. And, when things like that happen, it's like kind of like a free score for them to get interaction clicks on social media, and maybe post something a little bit, negative or hateful, in that aspect. But Richard says, I'm glad Rasmus got the goal, but I would still sell him. Yeah, well, that is one of the things that is being talked about, and maybe that's something that we do. Obviously Xerxes has turned his form and his, I guess, perception within the fan base around. If we rewinded a few months ago, many people were hating on Xerxes. I certainly had some question marks over him, but I've definitely seen him improve, and I've definitely seen why we signed him and what they were kind of seeing in him. His technical ability as well. His passing has certainly improved, decision making and all that stuff like that. And I was talking about Rasmus with some of my friends over when I was in Malta, and I was telling them I feel bad for him because towards the end of last season, he kind of really picked it up, and it was looking really bright for him. And there was a lot of hope for him this season, and it kind of just went all off the edge of a cliff. And he looks like nothing compared to what he was at the end of last season. And I do still feel like that part of him is there somewhere. But again, it's important for a striker to have confidence in himself, and you could just tell Rasmus this season has been playing with the utmost least confidence you could probably have as a striker. So hopefully Rasmus might hit a purple patch going forward, especially when we come back from the international break, and he starts maybe scoring some more goals and playing better. Because at the end of the day, I don't have any hate or really resentment towards any of the players. Sure, there's some players that maybe, I'd say let's move them on. But, we're still currently in the midst of a season, and I'd like for all the players to be performing at peak levels, whether I think they're good enough or not, whether there's a future in them or not. We need them to perform. So I would like Rasmus to find a bit of form, because it's going to be good for him, and it's going to be good for the club as well. And for those of you out there that would want Rasmus to be moved on, that would also help if Rasmus starts scoring some goals and starts looking better, because nobody's going to be interested in a player that in a striker that doesn't score and stuff like that. So yeah. Richard says Xerxes can do some kind of job. Rajat says, no, I don't want to take PSR hit, no way. Well, that's a good point, Rajat, because, one of the implications with Højlund is that we would take a big PSR hit on him. So I don't think Rasmus is going to go anywhere. There was a story about Napoli looking to replace Victor Osimhen with Rasmus Højlund, but it's been fairly already debunked as completely untrue, and it doesn't seem like Rasmus is going to be moved on as of right now. But again, with Ineos, we don't 100% know. We get hit with a lot of transfer news, but I think as we've seen in the past summer and even in January, we don't know the targets until the target is pretty much there. Whereas compared to before, it used to be dragged out, but, we got the Dorgu thing, and then Dorgu was signed like 2 weeks later or something like that. So I think as we get closer, or once the season ends and once the January, the summer window actually opens, then we'll get a little bit more. We'll know for sure who we're actually looking at. Rajat says he needs CR7 back. Well, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, and he's gone. Steph says, is CR7 beginning to hold Portugal back? Well, there's been a big discussion about that. And he is 40, if he's not 40 yet. And I do think that Portugal does they do kind of have to start moving away from Ronaldo. Now, I don't think that they necessarily have to exclude Ronaldo from their squad, but I think that Ronaldo starting every match and playing 90 minutes every match, I think they kind of have to start moving away from that, because he's only going to get older, and they have some very young players that are waiting for opportunities and trying to get their chance, and he's kind of blocking that. So I don't think they need to 100% remove him, but they do have to start making a little bit of moves, and I think Ronaldo also has to sort of accept that as well. I think that's an issue there. Richard says, I don't think Rasmus will ever be a Premier League player, and I think the Italian league would be ideal for him. Well, maybe so. I mean, we do know that the Italian league is different than the Premier League. And And obviously Rasmus wasn't bought under the Ineos model and the setup that we currently have. He was bought by the previous regime and the previous manager. So maybe maybe he is not the fit going forward for Ruben Amorim and the idea that our hierarchy have for the football that they want United to play going forward. So we need to see. Steph says Rasmus needs a strong finish to the end of the season. And that's what I'm hoping for, Steph. I really am. Because, again, I still like him in the way that he kind of plays his game. But we don't... I still don't think... We don't necessarily play to his strengths. So there's an argument to be made. He doesn't fit our system. Maybe he's not good enough for the Prem. But I do understand that he is a player that likes to break the lines. He likes to make the runs in behind. He wants to... have that space to run onto the ball and kind of take on the center back one-on-one and be in the box and finish as well. We've been struggling with open play goals for quite some time now. Obviously, the last match against Leicester, we figured out how to get some open play goals. And even in the Sociedad match, in the second leg, we struggled till they got the red card to get open play goals. We scored 2 penalties. But then we did score two more open play goals after that. So I think that kind of helped us in the Leicester match after, gave us a little bit more confidence. So that was good. And I hopefully, we don't forget this when we come back from the international break. I think there was a lot of times throughout this season and maybe even in previous seasons where we're crying desperately for the international break so we could kind of get a reset. Because we were so bad, and now this international break has come at a time where we were actually starting to slightly improve slowly, but we were improving slightly and slowly, and I just felt like I don't want this international break. I want us to keep going because we're inching up, and I'm like, now we're gonna stop, and my fear is when we come back, we're gonna kind of forget all that, and that's kind of gonna go all out the window. And we're gonna have to restart again and find that again and figure it out again. So hopefully that's not the case. Line says, I'm glad we've got Højlund, but he should have never been our only striker. Any 20-year-old would struggle as the number one striker, and 100%. And we all know the story. He was never supposed to be the main man. The club did this to him. The club, with their poor planning and their poor, recruitment, they did this to him because the idea was always supposed to be a player like him and an experienced striker. And we've gone on 2 seasons where, yeah, we added another striker in Xerxes, but he's also a little bit inexperienced, coming from a different league. He's certainly no Osimhen. He's certainly no Gaio Perez. He and he's a different style, and he had to come and adapt. So, he should have never been the number one. He needs they need somebody. I think even Xerxes, they need somebody that's 26, 27, that's been playing Champions League matches, that's experienced, that's basically almost a finished article in their position where they can take the lead role, where they can take the pressure and they can resume the role of the relief and learn off that player, learn off their experience and pick up things that somebody that's older, more experienced, more wise. They need that and they don't have it and they're doing it themselves, and it's a big ask, especially for a United team that's been very, very bad. Very, very poor, very, very lost, lackluster. It's even more of a bigger ask when the team is down. It's not like we have such a fantastic team and we got Rasmus Højlund and threw him in and he's letting the entire team down. The whole team has been letting each other down. So it makes it much more difficult for these guys that are trying to live up to the mantle, I guess, and the pressure. Rajad says, when Erik ten Hag was here, he said Manchester United was looking at getting younger talents that have pretty good potential. Steph says we got 7 likes and 11 watching. Very good. Let's get those likes up. Grace with the £2 super chat saying you're defo 5'2". Stop lying on your Tinder profile. No, I'm not gonna lie. I'm 5'6". I'm only 4 inches taller. I'm not tall. I'm short. I'm a short guy. But it is what it is. I can't do nothing about it. Although apparently I've heard they got surgeries somewhere in Turkey. But yeah, no, we're not gonna do all that. We're not gonna do all that. Lyle says CR7 is a hindrance for that team. They play him as to not upset him clearly 90 minutes every time. Come on, he needs to make way for a younger up and coming forward. Yeah, and I think you can kind of say that from the outside perspective. I would probably say something similar to that, Lyle, because we all know Cristiano's attitude, which is the same attitude that's made him, the best player in the world. And one of the greatest players of all time, and made him so successful and made him so great. But he is, he is at an age where, the time is no longer on his side, and it's going against him. So, I think for somebody with his mentality, it's difficult to kind of come to terms with that. And I think he's aware of the time that is left, and he's going to keep pushing. But, it was. In the aspect that you say they play him as to not upset him, I think we kind of seen a glimpse of that at Manchester United. I think when Erik ten Hag came in, before Erik ten Hag, Ronaldo played. The team played to Ronaldo. It was all about Ronaldo. All the balls were forced to Ronaldo, whether it was open or not. We were forcing a lot of balls. Now he scored goals, sure, because he's Ronaldo. But, when you have Ronaldo in your team, the team dynamics certainly shifts, and it goes off of a team basis to, you have Ronaldo, you got to feed him the ball, you got to play him because he's Ronaldo. And sometimes that does hinder the team. So, it is what it is. But we're talking about United. But let's move a little bit away from Portugal. Grace's England lineup, and yes, England are playing, and I'm gonna watch the match as well. But I'm gonna be doing some other things in the background. So, I was thinking of doing a watch along for England because I watch England, I support England, and but I can't do a watch along because I have to. I'm gonna be doing some other things while the match is on. So, But England lineup: Pickford, Walker, Konza, Byrne, Skelly, Curtis, Jones, Rice, Bellingham, Foden, Rashford, and Kane. So, Tuchel, first match in charge for England international team. Going to be interesting. Want to see how they're going to play. Hopefully, they're going to be playing some dynamic good football. And maybe, we can see, he was linked to United. We could see maybe what we possibly missed out on, or not missed out on. So let's see what happens with that. Steph says United's front three, whoever they are, need 60 Premier League goals between them to compete for the Premier League title. Top 4 team goals have been shocking for 3 years now. And yeah, we definitely need more goal contributions. Not even just by the front three, but all around. All around the team. I mean, Bruno's been just scoring goals now. He's found his form. He's been hitting highs. And he's been pretty much carrying us on his back for the past few matches. And he's kind of shut down the haters in that aspect. But, my father said to me when I was on vacation, we had to talk about Bruno. And he's still very adamant that he says Bruno is a problem. Now, he says Bruno is a problem because he says when Bruno plays like shit, we play like shit. And I kind of get what he means, but I focus it a little bit less off of Bruno Fernandes because I don't think that, if Bruno plays like shit and we then play like shit, I don't think it's necessarily Bruno's fault. I kind of, my mind shifts to, well, that's a bad team aspect because that means that we're just relying on one player. The rest of our team isn't good enough. They're not pulling their weight. And therefore we're a one-man team and we're not actually a team. Which then leads me to say that, the recruitment needs to be better and we need to get more players and actually create a squad. Like I've been saying since the induction of this channel, of this show. And I think Ineos so far, they've brought in 6 players. I think all 6 players are anywhere from decent to very good. And hopefully, they can figure out how to get some more good. Well, they bring in Heaven, so more than 6 players, but hopefully they can continue that streak in the summer with the restrictions that we have. I don't know, it's going to be difficult, and we're going to have to wait and see because as Sir Jim pointed out, whether we sign players or not, we're going to be paying 89 million on players that we've already signed, which is a large amount of money, and we're already struggling for money. So how we maneuver is probably obviously how we've been saying is that we need to sell to buy. I was talking to one of my United friends over in Malta, and he's very adamant that who's going to buy these players? Nobody wants necessarily Rashford. Nobody wants necessarily Anthony. Nobody wants Casemiro. And I get how it feels that way, but I do think that these players, there are offers from teams. It's just that United over the years have been very, for one reason or another, whether it's because they can't afford to take the PSR hit or because they just don't want to, they refuse to do deals for these players and get them out and keep them there, which in turn hurts us anyway. So, they got it. They got to move these players on. They got to move the players on. Rajat says Bruno is been maybe our most consistent signing since Sir Alex. I think he's been probably our best signing since Sir Alex. He is the one that has been the most influential. He has been the one that has been the most important, and for the amount of money that we signed him, he's definitely paid the value of what we paid for him and repaid it. And since he came in, he hit the ground running. And sure, he's gone through periods and moments where he didn't play well or he's been very poor, but that happens to all footballers. No footballer, unless you're Ronaldo or Messi, are you going to be 100% consistent basically all of the time for every season that you play for your career? But I do think that Bruno has been definitely our most impactful and probably our best signing post Sir Alex Ferguson era. And it's why I say again, you can say he's a problem, but there's more aspects in the squad that need to be dealt with, I think, before we start messing with Bruno. Because I look at it and I'm like, if you just removed Bruno Fernandes out of that team, where would we be? Because I think there's many fans out there that think, well, Bruno doesn't play the position the way that maybe some of the other players that play his position play in terms of looking after the ball, and maybe being a little bit more composed and not being so erratic. But I think some United fans think like if Bruno was gone, we could get Florian Wirtz or something like that, somebody that's worth 80 million to 100 million. And I'm just like, but the current situation that we're in, you remove Bruno Fernandes, I don't think you will get a player that is going to match his level at this current moment or be above it. So that means that we're going to downgrade. And we can't downgrade because we're in a position where we need to upgrade. So that's why Bruno is a player that I wouldn't touch at this moment in time. Rajat says Ekitike is performing, but he's average. Well, I seen him play one match recently. I wasn't fully aware of the player. He is quite pacey. He's a little bit lanky in terms of like tall. He kind of reminds me a little bit like Xerxes in a certain sense. But he impressed me in that match that I watched him, because at first I was like, who is this guy? And did a couple things and I was like, all right. But then he started doing some very good things in the match that I watched. And yeah, so I don't know. He's very young. He's not proven. It's not what we've been asking for and what we're saying. We're saying we want Osimhen or we want Gaio Perez, which I don't think we're going to be able to get, unfortunately. We've lost Quenda to Chelsea, which I'm very upset about, because I think that Quenda is going to be a very good player. And the spin on that was that Manchester United apparently were aware that Chelsea were going in for Quenda, and United chose not to do it, which is obviously bullshit, as we all know, because we don't have money, so there was nothing that we can do about it. But the other story was that we have broken ties with Jorge Mendes, because apparently he didn't inform Manchester United that about Chelsea coming in for Quenda until it was too late. And we always had a good relationship with Jorge Mendes, who has brung us many good talented players, and he has a good network of top talented players. So apparently we've ended that relationship. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but you know, and as Grace pointed out, they also did say that Quenda didn't want to play right wing back as well. So you know, there's that aspect. Maybe it's all true. Maybe it's all true when you put it all together. Maybe there's multiple different factors, but you know, and Grace says we need one striker, nothing more. I do think that we do need the striker, but again, we have Rasmus, we have Xerxes. I don't think we should be getting a 20-year-old striker. We need either a striker from the Premier League that's Premier League proven, that has experience in the Prem, that's gonna go into our team, that is going to provide something, but you know, an experienced striker. We need experience up there. We've been saying this for 2 seasons now, and it's going to be a 3rd season if we don't get that player. It's just going to be interesting to see how Manchester United are going to be able to pull that off, because there's not many of them out there. There's not many of them out there, and also the ones that are out there, like Osimhen or Gaio Perez, there's more than just us wanting them. There's multiple clubs, Real Madrid, Arsenal, not Real Madrid, Arsenal, etc., etc. So I feel like we're a little bit down in the pecking order for those players as well, and the experienced strikers, because unless we win the Europa League, we're not going to be in the Champions League. So we're a little bit less appetizing to these players, because they obviously they both play in the Champions League. Or were playing in the Champions League. They obviously want to play in the Champions League, and we possibly might not be able to offer them that, while the other clubs that are interested in them will be able to offer them that. So we might end up with another 20-year-old striker. And you know, it has come out that Ineos are looking at these younger players. And obviously, you know, the younger players tend to cost a little bit less depending on who they are. You know, some players are way over the moon, but yeah. Elias says Jorge Mendes got that bag from Chelsea. Why would he let us know? Well, because apparently we've always had a very good relationship with him, and I guess he used to get that bag from us. So I guess they felt like you couldn't even give us the respect of letting us know priorhand, because maybe we could have competed him for it. And I don't know, maybe they felt it was a disservice considering their previous working relationship, and they were like, you know, like you said, he got the bag, so maybe they felt it was a bit mercenary from him, so they were like, we don't want anything to do with this anymore, so you're out of the loop. And also United have changed their stance, right? We're being a lot more frugal, we're being a lot more cheap, we're looking a lot more after the money. So maybe that's why Jorge Mendes didn't let us know, because he knows that United aren't in a financial situation. He's not going to be able to get the same bag that he's got from Chelsea, that he's getting that he would get from United. So maybe that's why he didn't tell us, because he was looking about the bag. And so United were like, well, you're no good to us anymore. You know, it's a lot of speculation. We don't know, because these things go on behind the scenes, and we only get fed what we're told. And sometimes a lot of it is fake or PR and stuff like that. So Grace wants Haaland now. No, I don't want Haaland. And Grace says just offer Haaland a stake in United. Well, we'll see about that. But let's move on to some other things, topical stuff. Speaking of youngsters, Ayden Heaven, this was reported maybe an hour before we went live. Ayden Heaven is now out of his protective boot and has a chance of resuming training after the international break. So, potential injury boost for Ayden Heaven. I think we were all very sad that he went off injured in the last match. We were all highly concerned because he did a very good performance against Arsenal, and he did a very good performance in the Europa League match, and he was doing good in the Leicester match before he got injured. And he was looking very promising, and there was a lot of hype about him, and then boom, gets injured, gets carried off the pitch, and we were all highly concerned because you don't want to play like that getting injured so quickly after that. So it's good news, as Lyle says, great news for Heaven. That was a worry. He has been solid and so calm, and he has. And I was thinking, I was like, I don't know who at United was looking at him or found him or was the one that told them to pull the trigger on him, but listen to that person more. Whoever it is, I don't think they've been given credit, but yeah, I mean, when we signed him, they said that they were looking to put him in the first team, and which many people were quick to point out that, you know, this guy never played like a senior appearance for Arsenal, and then all of a sudden he's going to come to United and be a starter at his young age. But he's come, and the performances he's put in since he was put in the first time have been very good, very solid. And Lyle says Heaven has Christopher Vell written all over him. Well, hopefully, because you know, he's here to stay, and he was at the RB Leipzig group, who are known for good recruitment and stuff. So if it is chalked down to him, I'm even more encouraged, because we need somebody that has the eye. We need somebody that has the eye, that has the brain, you know, the knowledge and stuff. We've sort of been missing that for quite some time. And that person that has it, they obviously have a very important job, because they're going to be instrumental in the rebuilding of our squad and actually making a real team that can compete and that fits well together and that complements each other. You know, because I think there's multiple times that we've said that we are a team of individuals, and they do not complement each other. They don't complement the system and stuff like that. So whoever it is, whoever it was, yeah, maybe give them another shot at another play, and let's see if they continue that streak, because even me, I had a little bit of reservations. Like, you know, when I heard that story, I was like, I don't know. I thought maybe it was a bit of PR, like they're talking about they're going to put this kid in that hasn't played a professional appearance for Arsenal, and he left them, and I was like, I don't know how that's going to go, but you know, they were right in the fact that they got him, because he looks very good, and he's very young, and he looks very promising, and we got him for next to nothing. You know, I mean, him and Euro are pretty much almost the same age, and we paid a shit ton for Euro compared to him. Now I like Euro, but you know, Heaven, he's cost us nothing, and we're gonna need some more signings like this, whether they're 18, 19, or they're 23 or 24. We're gonna need some more signings like this to fill out the squad, to make the squad, to complete the squad. So, yeah. Lion says we had a bit of a dilemma during the last match. Who would you start, Heaven or Euro? I don't know. Probably based off of form, I would say Heaven. But considering that Heaven has had this injury, I would be a little bit cautious. So maybe I would go for Euros right now, because he's fit, and make sure that Heaven is okay, and not like, don't kill him. Don't. Let's make sure he doesn't like pick up another injury. Let's make sure that he's fully fit. Let's not rush him back. But I think based off of how he was performing prior to the injury, I would have went with Heaven over Euro, because I'm a man of merit. I'm a man of form, and I think Heaven came in and he was playing very strong. So let him continue playing. But I think maybe we should just ease him back in a little bit till he is 100%. considering that this says that, you know, he's out of his protective boot, and it says he has a chance of resuming training after the international break, I think, you know, if they're talking about a chance of training, not even playing, but just training, you know, at the international break, then, you know, we gotta take it easy with him. Richard says, Steph says Heaven's best mate is Obi. Yeah. And Heaven looks very cool and calm on the ball. 1 million pound well spent. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's just it's a great, it looks like maybe one of the best pieces of transfers that we might have done in the past 12 years. I mean, you got him for $1 million, and he looks already very good and very promising. So let's see what it's about. Arsenal must be missed out on him and sold him to us for just $1 million. I mean, I'm sure the fans are definitely very pissed about it. And if he continues to become even better, you know, that's only going to grow on them for sure. So, Steph says our academy is producing some great talent too, so missing out on Quenda might be a blessing. Well, you know, you're not necessarily wrong, Steph, because we have been focusing on the youth, and our academy is sort of pushing these players out now, and this has been, you know, some of them have been over a certain period amounts of years, but obviously it's been more of a focus since Ineos has come in as well. They're certainly pushing that aspect. I think for two reasons. One, because it saves us money. Two, it's part of our DNA and it's part of the club history, and we need to get that ball back on track, because I think there was a large period of time after Ferguson where that kind of went out the window or wasn't really hitting as it used to be. But for me, certainly, I understand that from the financial aspect, it can help us immensely. Because if you can produce these players, you can fill some gaps, and then you can, like, if we can get 2 or 3 players out of the youth academy that can actually play, that are promising, and you're filling 2 or 3 positions now where you don't have to spend 20 plus million in each position, we can then allocate those funds, and then maybe we can actually get an Osimhen for 60 million, and we can actually fill that striker role with the player that we desperately need, that we obviously don't have up top. I mean, you know, to sign another young striker, we have Cheeto, like we have Xerxes, we have Rasmus, and then there's Cheeto. Like we don't need Šeško. Unless you sell Højlund or something like that. We don't necessarily need Šeško. We don't need a player like that. We need Gaio Perez. We need Osimhen or something like that. So you know, the more youth products that our academy can produce that are high potential, exciting top prospects, the better for Manchester United. So hopefully, let's continue this focus on youth, and let's give them opportunities, and let's give them chances, which is why hopefully maybe Amos will come through as well. You know, we've forgotten about Kobbie Mainoo because he's been injured, and you know, twice this season he's been injured in and out. And when he came back, he seems a little bit less sharp, and I think it's because the injuries have set him back. And when you're injured, you come back less sharp, and you know, you haven't been playing football. So you know, I think a lot of the fan base, you know, no one's been talking about Mainoo, but Mainoo's another one. We need him back, and we need him to stay fit, and we need to look after him. He is a top talent in my eyes, and we need to make sure that we don't turn him into some injury-prone player. So. Lara says, I would have loved Quenda simply because he fits the profile to transform our right side match the left, but agree with the chat, it may be a blessing in disguise to produce a gem within and save money. Yeah, we need David on the free. Well, we're going to get to that, Richard. I'm glad you brought that up, but before we get to that, we got a couple things. So one of these youngerish players is that apparently Manchester United have open talks with Southampton for Tyler Dibbling. I think we've talked about Dibbling once or twice prior. It's a player that I like. You know, he's Premier League player, plays for Southampton. The times that I've watched him play in the Premier League, whether it's against us or just in general in the Premier League, he's a good, exciting player. I like his style of play. I like what he offers on the pitch. And if we were to get him, I think it would be a decently good signing. And I would be looking forward to it. Obviously, the fee would matter. And we can't be paying over the top prices because we can't afford to. Not that we should anyway, but we actually can't afford to. We got to figure out how we're going to break down this transfer budget to be able to get a certain amount of players with a certain quality so that we can actually give Ruben Amorim a chance next season, and not leave him, with a sinking ship, pretty much. So, unfortunately, this was like the brunt of the update. There was no fee given. There was no real substance. So I guess we just gotta wait and see for any updates. I'm sure we'll probably get some more updates on it. If this is true and talks have opened, I'm sure there will be follow-ups to come with this. And as you've seen on the thumbnail, we have Xavi Simons and Yildiz. Now, this comes from Plettigol, who is German-based. And obviously, Xavi Simons plays in the Bundesliga. Yildiz plays for Juventus. And the update from Pletti was Manchester United are monitoring Kenan Yildiz, who I think is a very good player, and I would love for him to come to United, and Xavi Simons, who I also think is a very good player, and I would take him at United. But Manchester United are looking for a versatile attacking midfielder for the summer transfer window. So, so far I would say striker, attacking midfielder. That's two positions. But there was another update from him that went hand in hand with this, that kind of it's almost a little bit similar, but it says Ruben Amorim wants a player that can play in the number 10 position of his system, and Manchester United are considering the two players, Yildiz and Xavi Simons. Now the thing is that Simons is probably going to be expensive. I think I read right before I went live that RB Leipzig, they're not in a good financial situation. They want, I believe, they're going to ask for 80 million for Xavi Simons. These players that are 80 million, I think we have absolutely no chance of getting them. Yildiz, there might be a play for him because Juventus are struggling financially, and they are looking to move players on, and the Italian league is not it's not a financially strong league, and I think that's why we've seen us kind of do some deals in the Serie A as of late, because there are deals to be made there where you can get a player of a certain talent for a certain price that you won't be able to get from other places around Europe. So maybe Yildiz. Again, there was no prices quoted. I guess for Yildiz, there was one that came out for Xavi Simons. So we got to wait and see on that. But one that we can do, and one that has been leading the news in the transfers for United is Jonathan David, as Richard pointed out, because Jonathan David will be a free signing. So that, unfortunately, from a certain aspect, is down our alley because we don't have money. And it says Manchester United, Arsenal, and Spurs are currently in active negotiations to sign Lille's Jonathan David on a free transfer this summer. And we should be doing this now. I would like Manchester United to be getting ahead of the curve. He's on a free transfer. We should absolutely be in negotiations for somebody that's out of a contract. I don't think it's Arsenal's number one target. I think Arsenal want to get Gaio Carez, or they want to get Osimhen. I think that's their top targets because they're pushing to try and win the league, and those players are on a different level than Jonathan David. I think Jonathan David is an okay signing. He has experience, playing in European competitions and kind of being the main man. But I just, his level, I just think is below an Osimhen and a Gaio Carez. But this is where we find ourselves in this certain situation that we might have to end up with a player like Jonathan David because we can't afford the other players, or we can't give them an appetizing project that maybe Arsenal might be able to give to like Gaio Carez or Osimhen, et cetera, et cetera. So this is definitely probably one of the more likely ones and probably one of the more important ones that we need to be watching out for. And I think, I forget how old he is, but he's not that old, but he's he's been around for quite some time. He's played some football, and I think maybe it's one that we're gonna have to do and we're gonna have to live with. But another one, because we've been, when the international break comes, it's all we gotta fill, we gotta get some clicks, we gotta get some stories. So it's all transfers. And another one that's come. Now I'm not too sure about the source, but I don't think this was the only source that put this out. But apparently Manchester United are ready to pay 33.5 million to sign Antoine Semenyo ahead of Chelsea and Tottenham. Bournemouth are apparently asking for 42 million pounds for the winger. Again, I think he's a decently good player. He's Premier League proven. He's been pretty good for Bournemouth. He's been good in the Premier League. And he's a winger. I don't know how he necessarily fits into Ruben Amorim's system, considering what we need in the wing backs. And we've seen the likes of maybe like Garnacho, who is considered a winger, but more of an inside forward. And he's had to adapt and he's had to change. And he's now playing on the right instead of the left. And he's certainly improved in recent because he was struggling. But again, he's another player that I wouldn't be against. Like, there's some people out here that they want these, they have to be the upper echelon signings. And again, I've been banging on for at least the past season and a half that we need to build the base, and we need to build the team before so that we can move up the levels, so that we can get back to the place where we can actually sign top players, where we can actually afford them, but also that we are an enticing project, an enticing club. And we can't do that right now. So players like Dibbling, or maybe Jonathan David, or maybe Semenyo, these players, I think they have something to offer. They're not, they're not Osimhen, they're not Gaio Carez, they're not Harry Kane or whatever, but I think you can build a good base around them. I think they have something to offer. I think they're good players. So Lyle says David is 25. Yeah, so that's decently good age, and he has a decently good experience as well. So Lion says we can't afford Dibbling, unfortunately, same as Hackney and Xavi. Yeah, probably not, maybe not. But we gotta see. Gray says we don't need a wing back. Well, I don't think we need a right wing back. I think Delo's all right. I think in terms of major problems, there's many United fans that want to have their cake and eat it too. But when I look at the right wing back, like Delo is fine. He has his faults, and he has to improve in certain aspects, but he also does good in certain aspects. And then we have why am I forgetting his name? 3 weeks, and I'm forgetting people's names. Jesus, somebody help me! Chat live, help me! Who's our other right wing back? Why can't I remember his name? We have, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about. He's been good too. Maz, yes, Maz. Jesus. Yes, we have Maz. So on the right, I'm okay with the right. The right and Ahmad, right? And Ahmad. And Dorgu can even play there, but I want Dorgu on the left, right? But Maz Delo, and we have Ahmad. So the right I'm okay with. The left is the place that I have the issue with. So Dorgu, I think, looks very good. I'm excited by Dorgu. I'm excited to see what happens with Dorgu. But it's the depth on the left that is bothering me because I don't trust Luke Shaw. And if I could, I would take Luke Shaw and plop him at Stockport County or something, move him on. And then I'm looking at the left and I'm like, okay, what are you going to do with Amos? Are you going to push him through? Is that going to be number option 2 or 3? We still need one more player there. So the left wing back, I would maybe be looking at. The right, I would hold it as it is now and then focus on other positions. And maybe the season after, maybe we can afford to move a piece around there or so. So, but yeah, thank you guys for that. I forgot. Lewis Skelly has scored with the debut goal. Well, Arsenal have apparently gotten a very good golden child there because he has been absolutely scintillating for them. So, yeah, we could use a player or two like that coming from our academy, more than we already had. So, and Garnacho if he improves defensively. Yeah, but it's interesting with Garnacho because Garnacho's been he's been playing him on the right a lot more now than so far on the left, and I think actually Garnacho's been playing. Maybe you could argue that he's been playing better on the right than he's played on the left. So, Garnacho might be another one that he ends up being a player considered for the right and not for the left. So the left is looking kind of very weak compared to the right. So I think on the right-hand side, I don't think we should be looking to get any players. On the left-hand side, I think we could use maybe at least one to kind of fill the depth. And obviously, I'm not talking about, when I say fill the depth, I'm not saying like, yeah, you're obvious backup. Like, no, you're coming in to try and make a stake your claim for that place and grow and progress in there. So, yeah, Flop Shaw into Mickey D's usually there anyway. Last says depth. Yes, I agree on the left. Leon coming through, and he will be back up with Amos for next season. I think will be good. Garnacho 10 times better on the right, says Lyle. Well, yeah, we talked about this a little bit before I left. That I know that Ruben Amorim was gonna put a push for the youth. He did it at Sporting. It was instrumental for him at Sporting. It helped him out because, again, Sporting was a team that didn't have money. Their squad was a mess. The club was a mess when he took it over. And he needed to do things to transform the squad with a limited budget. And yes, you're at Manchester United. It's a 10 times bigger club playing in a, the hardest league in the world. So it's going to be a harder task, and it's not going to be as easy to transition. But I still think that I still had a feeling that he's going to do it, especially with the push from Ineos with the youth as well. So maybe this is what happens going forward, like you're saying, Lyle, that, maybe we do just pull up some more youngsters and we fill the depth out that way. But the most important thing is that we fill out the depth, or at least we try. If we try something and clearly it's like, all right, well, we have these 3 players. Amos, he's gotten a run of games, but he's not ready. He's struggling. Then we have to go into the transfer market and maybe get somebody in there to help out. So I think that's why it's also important, like, from now to the end of the season, like, let's figure that thing out with Amos. Let's really see where he's at, so we can really judge the squad in terms of, like, how seriously bad is the left. Are we down to just Dorgu, or can we actually kind of rely on Amos, and then maybe it's not so bad, and then maybe we might only need one more player. Maybe we could put in another youth player, or, like, is Amos far off of it? We need somebody, Dorgu or up, to fill that squad, that space. Grace says Delo on the left. He's better than Dorgu. I wouldn't say that. Lies telling you to put down the drugs. Lion says I would replace Delo with Frimpong. Then have Maz, Frimpong, and Ahmad right, Dorgu, Leon, and Amos left. Well, Grace is gonna hate me for this, but if you told me that we could get Frimpong by moving on Delo, I would do that move because I think Frimpong is he's just a top right wing back, and he fits exactly what we need, and he's still young and he's fresh, and he's exciting, and he offers more going forward than Delo. I just don't know if that's going to happen. I know that Frimpong is available, I think, for about 40 million, so it's not like the most expensive deal. But that would require probably us selling Delo for a sizable fee close to that, so that we can, sort out the financials in that aspect. But Grace is saying we're bullying. No, we're not bullying. But yeah. But some of the other things that came about, was one of the things I mentioned Šeško, and this came from Pletigol, German-based, German source, saying Manchester United target Benjamin Šeško has a release clause of around 80 million euros. You know, yeah, he's our target. How long has Šeško been our target? Like 5 years? I think he was our target when Ali was the manager. So obviously he's on a watch list. Obviously we scouting him as probably there's like another 50 clubs that have been scouting him, that would want him. I don't think we're gonna get him, because I don't think that we can afford to get any player that's worth 80 million. I don't think we can. I mean, depending on what we do in the summer, but the talk of our financial problems right now, I don't even think we can afford to buy one player that's worth 60. So, I don't see this happening. I don't see Šeško coming in. Even if you try and sell Højlund, we can't even really sell Højlund because of the whole PSR thing, and we're going to take a huge loss on that. So it just doesn't make sense, which kind of worries me. But it's even the same thing for Ekitike, who is also quoted at 80 million euros, who is obviously another target for Manchester United, and he is going to leave Frankfurt this summer, according to Pletigol. But I just don't see how United do this deal. I don't see how they end up paying 80 million euros or anywhere close to that, for Ekitike, who is young, who is unproven, in many aspects. Yeah, he plays in the Bundesliga, but when you compare him to other players, like Osimhen or Gaio Cardes, he's certainly unproven. He's certainly not the finished article, and it's a big risk on a player. You're paying that amount of money. So I just don't see these deals happening. I think these are very far fetched. I think these are more of international break, just stories coming out. So, yeah, I wouldn't. I take these as no chance as of right now. But again, the tide can turn, because if we manage to win the Europa League, I think that changes a lot of things for us. So, maybe these transfers, there's nothing wrong with planning around them. There's nothing wrong with keeping an eye on them, because again, I think there's certain things that matter. It also depends like how high we can actually finish in the Premier League table, because the higher we finish, the more money we get. So, I'm not saying we're going to get to 6th. I'm just saying that, like, if you finish 8th, and not 14th, we get a little bit more money. And, so if we finish like 8th and we win the Europa League and we get into the Champions League, our financial situation has completely improved, and allows us a lot more room, to do certain deals that looked completely out of it. So, that's, the mitigating factors. We got it's kind of a wait and see to see what we do from now till the end of the season. And that's why I think when the season ends, we're going to know a lot more for sure of, what players we're actually going to be able to do. So, and the last one that came out was this story, and I left this for last because it's probably the most trash one. I mean, it's come from the Sun to start off with, but it's about Branthwaite. And it's saying United ready to meet Branthwaite's 50 million valuation this summer. United would have to qualify for the Champions League to sign him, as the player is determined to join a side playing in the competition. Branthwaite is ready to consider the move. United believe they can get the deal done. Number one, it's the Sun, so we could just say bunch of bullshit. But let's remove the Sun from that. I think one of the things that United fans maybe have to keep in mind, that I certainly think, is that, Branthwaite was a player linked to us under our previous director of football, who's no longer with us, Dan Ashworth, and also Eric Ten Hag. Um, you know, so I don't necessarily know if Ruben Amorim and Co are still looking at him. This might just be one that, because he's English, and he was linked with us previously. They might still be using us, to get some more interest. I don't think that he's probably a serious candidate anymore. I think that was with the kind of the old, or last summer's kind of thing. And yeah, so I just don't see it happening. Also, I don't even like the I don't even like the mention that it says that, you know United need to qualify for the Champions League to sign him, as the player is determined to join a side playing in the competition. I mean, sorry, bro, but like, you're playing for fucking Everton. I don't know who you necessarily think you are. In that you're demanding straight for Champions League football, because I don't even know what other teams that are going to be in the Champions League um are actually looking at you. So, if he's actually demanding that, I think his head is bigger than his ability is, because I don't think he's even that necessarily proven. I You look at the top four team. Don't I don't think Liverpool would get him. I don't think Arsenal will get him. City's not going to get him. Villa probably won't get him. Or any of the other teams. Maybe Forest, if you want to say they're in the Champions League. Maybe Forest will go and get him. Um, but yeah. What is this? All right, Grace, I opened that up, but like it's empty. I don't know if you had it filled out. Oh, you want to make a team on stream? All right, we could do it. We could do it. We could do it. Hold on, let me see where that went. Do 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 do. Let me see how we do this. But yeah. Who King Tong is just a paste merchant and is rubbish. Lion says he's gonna be livid if we miss out on the pawn. Well, yeah, I want the pawn. I really like him. Lion says if we could finish 7 or 8, I would call that a massive save for our season. Yeah, yeah. Um, and Lion says I still think Jolinton and Ugarte pairing would be deadly. Maybe, maybe. Um, Lyle's laughing at the 80 million. With what money? Yeah, I mean, nah, But the thing is, like, they're gonna ask for high prices, right? So they're gonna ask for 80 million. They'll probably do a deal for maybe around 60, right? But the point is, like, I don't, as of right now, like, if we finish where we are and we don't win the Europa League and we don't get into the Champions League, I don't think, without selling players and moving on players, and we don't know how that's gonna go, I don't think we can afford to pay 60 million for one player. Because, like, here's the thing. I think we could buy the player for 60 million, but then when we buy the player for 60 million, that's going to screw over the rest of the transfers. Because it's not about one player. It's about the fact that, like, we want to sign, or we feel the need that we need to sign 4 to 5 players. And it's like, if you sign the one player for 60 million, the other 3 or 4 players, you can't, we're not going to be able to sign anybody that's going to be of good value. But we would have to sign a bunch of, like, players that are like 10 million, 15 million, and those players obviously aren't going to be necessarily good enough, and it's not going to be what we need. So, and we have Heaven and Martinez, yeah, like the, and I don't even think that the center back position is necessarily one of a necessity. Like, yeah, but Lindelof is gonna go, but we have Heaven, we got Euro, Maguire's gonna stay, we have Martinez, there's Delit, and maybe we call up another youth player. Um, just because we play with 3 center backs, so we need to make sure we have the depth for injuries because Martinez injured, two big injuries in the 2 past seasons, so got to be careful of that. Maguire's 30, 31, and he gets injured here and there, and he misses a few weeks here and there, so got to watch out for that. Euro has suffered an injury when he joined us, and he's still fairly young, so we got to be careful from him. And Heaven just got a little bit of an injury scare as well, so we got to just make sure that we're good on all ends. And let me see if I could get this in here, Grace. How to do this? How do I do this? Whoa. Hey, we got ads playing on here. What's going on? Does it move? How do I make it? How do I make it move? I don't know how to do this, Grace. I don't know how to do it. Grace about to crash the stream now. I'll figure it out for next time because I don't know how to do it. So we'll do it maybe we'll do a stream tomorrow or something. Tomorrow is Sunday. I haven't figured it out yet. But we're gonna do a few streams throughout this international break and throughout, from here going forward. So for sure. Does anybody, we got 15 minutes. Does anybody want to talk about anything that we haven't talked about? Maybe something that, while I was away, things happened, or that we didn't bring up. If you guys want to bring up anything, just throw them out in the comments and we'll talk about them. And Grace, I promise you, we will build the squad on the next stream because I'll figure out how to get that to work because I don't know. It bring up a page, the page that I'm looking at. It bring up a whole different page. I don't even know how that ad got on there. So, Lai is asking me for the thoughts on the new stadium. So I kind of like the stadium in what they're trying to do. I'm sad that Old Trafford is going to be demolished. Essentially, it's going to be torn down and it's going to cease to exist. We're getting banter over the 3 trident thing. I'm not a fan of the whole net thing that people are pointing it as a circus. I hope that now, while I understand that's removable and I understand what that is, I hope that it doesn't actually look like that because it does kind of look like a circus arena, right? But I think the rest of the aspect, the model that they've shown is actually it's very beautiful. I like it. And I do understand that, it makes more sense to build a new stadium than it is to sort of revamp Old Trafford. I think as much as I love Old Trafford and I would want Old Trafford to stick around, I could see the potential problems with revamping Old Trafford and the fact that when you look long term, I just feel like we would have to pump in a lot more money. I have concerns though because the Glazers, Ineos, the money that stands to be made off of this. I'm interested to see what they do with the naming rights. Obviously, a lot of clubs nowadays, it's a paid sponsorship. And Amazon is apparently they're putting in $730 million dollars, pounds, whatever it is, and they're gonna want something associated with that. I I want a balance. I want a balance. I don't want us to 120% like just sell the entire soul of the football club um for this money to be made. But I do understand the need for these things. Like when you have that sort of stadium, we can do so many things to generate mo- money to help the club. And if it is managed properly and the funds actually go towards improving the club, it's going to be a big plus. So I understand that. What I don't want is like it to be like um new old new Trafford, Amazon New Trafford or something like that. Like I don't know what they're gonna name it. I feel like they should just keep Old Trafford. If they name it New Trafford, I think that's stupid. And 110% they're gonna put a sponsor in front of it or behind it. Just like Barcelona did with the Noi Camp, with Spotify Noi Camp. I don't necessarily like it, but this is the trend that football has gone down, and it's just going to keep happening to more and more clubs. And there's nothing really that any fans around the world are gonna do to stop it. So, um, you know, I guess we'll see. Remember, this is a concept design; it may change. Yes. Um, Thoughts on pavement? The Prime Arena. Yeah, like so I think it's exciting. It's a new, I guess you would say, a new dawn, a new era for United. It's a little bit bittersweet because we're losing an iconic. Um, it's an iconic. Um, Not a building, and it's just an iconic. There's a word for it. Not a monument, but it's an iconic thing in the world, like Big Ben or the Eiffel Tower or like that's what Old Trafford is. It's an iconic landmark. And it's gonna cease to exist. So that is certainly bitter. Um, but then it's exciting because it's like you can see what we can have, and we certainly deserve. Not that we deserve, but like as United, for how big we are around the world, we should have one of the biggest and best and most state of the art stadiums, and obviously at the current moment we don't because of our owners. Um, but again, I have a big concern about because the Glazers are still here, and I know how the Glazers operate, and I've seen what they've done with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I've seen how they use other people and they use other people's money to get what they want, which is to put the money in their pocket and basically rip off the entire um landmark, or business or entity or whatever that they control, and their greed continues. So and another thing is like we do own two pieces of land where the Manchester United, not Manchester United, the Manchester government is going to do the regeneration project in the surrounding area. We own two plots of land there. I'm kind of interested to see what we're going to do with those two pieces of land because technically, since the club owns it and the Glazers own the Glazers own those two plots of land. What are they going to do with it? Are they going to sell it? And if they sell it, you know, how does that? What happens from that? Are United the club, the team? Are we going to see that money? Are the Glazers going to funnel it out and put in their bank accounts? Because like Todd Bowley and Chelsea, right? One of the things that they did to get around FFP and all that stuff and spend all the money that they spent was Chelsea owned hotels, and they sold a couple of the hotels. And then they therefore were able to pull that money in and use it to buy these players and pretty much get around FFP and PSR. Um, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, if United were to sell those two plots of land back to the Manchester area, and the government pays them that money, which would obviously be a large, substantial amount of money because it's plots of land. Pretty sure the club would be able to bring that money in and then use those on transfers, and it would be a large, significant amount of money. So they haven't talked about that. They've kept it quiet. I know people aren't fans necessarily of this man, but Mark Goldbridge was the one that did the video on these pieces of land on the United stand. He got it confirmed by the club, but the club has never spoken about them. The club has never acknowledged it. Even somebody like Sky Sports never talked about it. He did the digging, and he got it confirmed by the club that they actually own that land. And if it wasn't for him speaking out about it, nobody would have known or paid attention to this. Since then, nobody talks about it. And there's nothing ever said in the news that we get about this two plots of land. So I'm interested, but I'm also worried because we all know the Glazers' greed and stuff like that. So, and Lyle says lease the land, and that's something else you could do as well. Like, and this is one of the things that I'm looking for Ineos has to do, and I don't know when they're gonna do it. I assume, I hope they're gonna do it, because if they're not even aware of this, then we're in big trouble and they're really incompetent. But we need to figure out how we're going to be pulling in extra money. We haven't done anything yet. They have to do something. Some type of commercial deals, sponsorship deals, like Lyle's saying, lease the land. These things can help us bring in more money so we can actually bring in players. And go towards the self-sustaining model that Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are trying to do and say. So I don't know, but yeah. But then Sir Jim, and I seen you guys talk about in the Discord. I think it was a few days ago. Like, Sir Jim did an interview after the interviews, and he said something along the lines of like, he's getting all the stick. And if it ever got to the level of, he called it abuse, that the Glazers get, if that level of abuse was directed at him, that he said that he might leave, because it wouldn't be fun and he wouldn't be able to handle it. And one of you, I believe it was Lyons or Lyle, rightfully said, well, if he backs out, what happens to the new stadium? Because they're the ones that are pushing it, right? Which is a good question. And I don't really have an answer for it. I don't know, but it's something to think about. What the stadium is supposed to be built in 5 years. What if in 2 years' times, we're singing songs about, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's gonna die, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe goes, you know what, F this. This isn't what I expected, or this isn't what I necessarily signed up for. I don't want any part of this anymore. This has been a disaster. I'm out. What happens to our new stadium? What happens to the plans? Did the Glazers take it over? Did they get somebody else in? Do they then have to see if they're going to sell or not? I don't know. Because 5 years is a long time. I mean, we never know what could happen. I mean, just like we had the example of COVID, something like that could happen in the world again. Hopefully not, but it's just, Line says that question kept me up for nights. Yeah, and, we're not going to get an answer to that, unless somebody does the homework on it. But I don't think there's much homework to do, because I don't think anybody knows, and I don't think anybody's going to be able to get that answer. Maybe Sir Jim would be able to tell you, but I doubt he's going to tell us. So, yeah. United is going to get the largest deal for the naming rights in football history. Mark my words, it's going to be huge. I believe that. I do think so, because again, whether or not people seem to understand this, and when I say people, I mean like non-United fans. We're shit in football, but at the end of the day, we are still like we're still in the top 3 of the biggest names, brand, club in football. Like, we are a worldwide entity with like 1 billion fans. So when it comes to business like that, to put your name, your company's name, next to something associated with Manchester United, that's a big deal. And you're going to pay a lot of money to do that because in the end, good or bad, that's a lot of eyes. And every time United's mentioned, um, and they're following, and in today's day and age, that's why influencers are more important and more hyped up than celebrities are today, because you got a person on Instagram that has 49 million followers. um that's why they get paid, because they got 49 million eyes on them. Not all at once, but in general. And so United, we have billion plus, because we have a billion fans. But then it's not even just the fans, it's all the others, it's neutrals, it's rivals. So we have well over a billion people watching us, talking about us, um you know seeing what we're doing, reading about us. So I do think I agree with Lyle that, when it comes time for that, I think it will probably be announced as the largest deal in history. And it's going to be massive. Because at the end of the day, we are a massive name. Um, Gray says, get Jonathan David on a free and use funds to pay for some transfer fees and debt. We may have to do that. But I think we have to get the fan base to a point where we have to understand we're gonna need a couple seasons to really improve, steady the ship, and get to a place where we're like solid. Because we're we're in a mess. Last season was a mess. This season has been a mess. And you have two back-to-back seasons that were a mess. And if you look back 4 years, we only had one good season. The season prior to Ten Hag was a disaster, right? Then we had that one good season on there at Ten Hag. The second season was a mess. We managed to win the FA Cup, but overall, in terms of Champions League, was a disaster. Finishing 8th in the league wasn't good. And then you had this season where it's just been a mess as well. And we're gonna finish I don't know where in the league. So and we might end up trophyless, but we might end up with a Europa League trophy. So you're talking 3 out of 4 seasons have been a mess / disaster. Consistently we're not in a place where we're steady. We're not solid. We're not. We don't have that foundation. We're gonna have to do it. And I think they got Ruben Amorim. He's a young guy. He has his idea of football, and we're gonna have to try and build it out with him. Now next season we have to improve. But what's improvement? Because I think there's some United fans out there, and it's not to criticize them. It's not to bring them down and say they're wrong. And I'm not trying to lower standards or any of that. But there's some United fans that I think they're adamantly next season we must be finished top 4 and win this trophy or that trophy. And I'm like, I get that, because that's what we are. And I mean, we're even a step above that. We're supposed to be the team that's winning and challenging for the Premier League and all the other cups. But it's when I look at it, and I'm just 3 out of the last 4 seasons have been a disaster, in one way or another. It's just we don't have the platform to do that. So it's what is for me, it just has to be improvement. We have to look better. We have to look sharper. We got to look more dangerous next season. We obviously have to finish higher in the league. We can't be hanging around 14th. We got to be, in and around 6th place, fighting for that top 4 spot. But we have to be consistent in that throughout the season. And then also, whatever competitions we're in, if we are in the Champions League, or if we get into some European competition, we got to perform well in there as well, and go as far as possible, if not win it, and try and win, one of the other trophies like the FA Cup or the Carabao. But I look at it now and I'm just like, this is like another 2-3 years. They're talking about 2028 to win the league, from Ineos, and I don't see how they're necessarily going to do it by 2028, considering the situation that we are in right now. Now maybe they do it by 2029, and maybe 2028 we're close, but we're not. We didn't hit it. But we certainly cannot afford to stand still, because that's going backwards, and we certainly can't afford to go backwards, because that's like double backwards. So next season we have to improve, in all aspects, but especially on the pitch, the playing style, the chemistry of the players, the way we handle matches, the way we win matches. We need to improve in that aspect. So do we see Glazers leave before the new stadium? Remember, Ineos on a track for a full takeover. Well, I don't think they are, Lyle. I don't think they are, and I don't think we will see the Glazers leave, before the new stadium. I don't think so, because again, the Glazers are people. They don't look at things in short-term periods. I think the Glazers, when they look at Manchester United, they're always thinking like 10 years into the future. And they always look at it like, what is the value going to be of the club and of football as a whole, 10 years time from now? And how's it going to look 10 years after that? I think they plan very far ahead. Now, things can happen. There is a possibility, like, listen, we're getting a brand new state of the art stadium being built, which maybe then will entice somebody else that has a lot of money to maybe come and try and buy them out. And obviously Ineos would like to take full control, but the Glazers have to offer them that opportunity. So maybe that opportunity arises, but I just am very skeptical, because I don't trust the Glazers, and I just know how greedy they are, and I know how just how cynically business they are. This is it is a cash cow. They're getting a stadium, a £2 billion stadium. They're getting it built for them. They're not putting in a penny. All of this is going on United. When they sell the club, they don't have to pay a dime. They are absolutely over the moon, because they did this with the Buccaneers. They got the stadium, a brand new stadium for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got it built, and they didn't pay a dime. And they're doing it in a similar but different way at United. So these guys are like, well, we sucked all the money out of United. We let Old Trafford die, and we've essentially killed Old Trafford, which is why now we're getting this new stadium, because it's so bad that it almost doesn't make sense to even revamp Old Trafford, because it's a similar cost, and then you run the risks of certain things, and there's certain things that you can't do to Old Trafford that you can do. Like, we can only make it 85,000 and not 100,000, so you're getting a little bit less money from tickets and stuff like that, and seating and all that nonsense. So I just don't trust him. I don't trust him. I don't. So I don't know, but I hope. But the thing is, like, there is no actual agreement for Ineos to actually take over full time. Like, there's nothing in writing in the deal that the Glazers and Ineos made that, like, Ineos will take over the club by this certain date after this happens or whatever. They have first dibs. If the Glazers decide to sell, they have first dibs. But again, that's all in the Glazers. That could be in 10 years. That could be in 15 years. It could be in 20 years. If Ineos is still around, if Sir Jim, Sir Jim probably won't even be around in 15 years. The Glazers are going to outlive Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So, who knows what happens? Gray says Malta's losing. Can we get a hell yeah? We always lose. That's nothing new. We literally have Grace, we literally have farmers and bartenders. You know how like people joke and they say like league, like the French league is a farmers league, or like those people are farmers. Like my, we're literally farmers. Like our professional players are are literally semi-professional players in the grand scheme of things. Like they play football, but they have jobs. Like they're bartenders. They're, you know, they work construction. Like they literally are like they literally are like part-time players playing professionals. Like it's crazy. So, and we only have a population of about 600,000 people anyway. So the pool is very limited and small. So Grace says, would you take fewer transfers / no transfers if it meant sorting out our transfer payments for previous players? No, I don't think so. I know why you're asking that question, Grace, and I get it, but I don't think we can. I don't think we can just like pause um improving the squad because we're paying for other players. I mean, all clubs are paying for other players. Like, you know, so Jim kind of made that statement, and like I get what he was trying to say. At the same time, you know, I would have pushed back on him and saying, I'm like, well, that's fair that we're gonna pay 89 million for these players that we already bought, but like, you know, we're not the only club that does that. You know, like every club does that. That 89 million payment is only it's only a problem because of what the Glazers have done since they've owned the club. Like it's that 89 million payment is only a problem because the Glazers have done what they did to our club. That otherwise is normal, and we can't really get less transfers or no transfers just to sort it out. Now, I will say that obviously we can't get transfers in if it pushes us in a spot where we get hit by PSR, because then obviously that's bad. So we can't do that. But to go in with the focus of like we need to fix the payments of these players, so we gotta like not do deals, you know, because then we're standing still, which means we're going backwards. And if we go backwards, we're gonna get hurt on the pitch. And when we get hurt on the pitch, we're gonna get hurt more financially. So it kind of doesn't work itself out anyway. What they need to do is, in my belief, is that they need to do deals like that they've been doing, and they need to identify and get the players like that they've been doing, like Dorgu, 30 million, Heaven for 1 million, bringing in some youth. We have to improve the squad. We need to get better. We need to keep up with our rivals. We can't blow the bank. We can't put ourselves in PSR trouble. But they need to navigate that, and we need to improve so that next season we get into a better position, we get more money, and we can continue going that way slowly but steadily until we get to a point where we've leveled everything out, and now we're in a good position where we can go back to operating as a normal football club, because we're really bad, we're really behind. So you said it's like 300 million. Is it though? Is it 300 in total? Yeah, I mean that's just something they have to navigate with, in my opinion, Grace. I get what you're saying, um, but to me, it's just something that they have to navigate with, because we can't, but we can't just stop. We can't just stand still. We have to continue to spend, because we're gonna fall way behind. We have to do it within our means, and then we have to figure out how, you know, this is their job. Like they need to figure out how you deal with this, because they have a big this is a big problem on their hands. You know, it's a big dilemma. Elias says United is going to win the league in the last season at Old Trafford and successfully defending the new stadium. Just watch. We'll probably win the league once before that in 2028. Eric hasn't mentioned the possibility of Sancho actually coming back. Well, there was an update on that, and So I did see that. There was talk of that, but I didn't mention it because I don't think it's going to happen. We haven't been told the exact fee penalty that Chelsea would have to pay to not take Sancho. But I assume and I'm hoping that it is a significantly large penalty fee, which is going to make them buy them, because it's like you're going to pay such a large amount of fee and you're going to end up without the player. So you're going to pay this significant fee, which in them might not make so much sense, because it's like, well, we're going to pay the fee and we're going to end up with nothing, where we can just pay the 25 million. Obviously it's going to get spread out, and then maybe we'll be able to move him on. Maybe we'll break even so that we don't lose money, right? Now, one of the updates that came out before we went live was Chelsea are already looking for buyers for Jadon Sancho as they prepare to trigger the 25 million obligation to buy the winger. So one of the scenarios that I could see happening, which would be a typical Chelsea thing / United thing, is Chelsea triggers the 25 million obligation to buy. They pay the 25 million, and then somehow they sell him for 30, making a 5 million profit. And then United fans losing their shit, ridiculing our club, basically saying, you know, why couldn't we sell him for 30 million? Why couldn't we sell him for 35 million? Chelsea were able to do it. Where I stand is I don't really give a shit if Chelsea do that. All I want is the Chelsea to pay the fee, the 25 million, wipe our hands clean, walk away, and let's look towards the future and not look towards the past and forget about that shit. So I do think that Chelsea are going to take him. Because that mention of that fee, I don't think they told us how much, but I do believe that it is certainly significant that Chelsea are, because I think if it wasn't significant, I think Chelsea maybe would have already just been like, yeah, we're not paying it. But the fact that they haven't, I think that they're like, we don't want to pay this, but like it. I think just from their end, they're like, it doesn't make sense because we're going to pay such a high fee and we're going to have nothing to show for it. Whereas I'm sure some of their people pointed out, like, okay, we pay the 25 million, we'll spread it out for whatever we got to spread it out for. You know, which if you do a 5-year deal, it's 5 million a year. And then if you sell him the next season for 30 million, you've made a 5 million profit, and you only paid 5 to 10 million or whatever it is. So yeah. Apparently Altair Binder has returned back on grass training yesterday. He has been doing lots of strength and conditioning work the last few weeks, and fitness levels have gone up massively. Manchester United could find it difficult to sign Xavi Simons because of their current financial difficulties. RB Leipzig won at least 70 million euros. And yeah, I think that's like all the news that we. Oh wait, hold on. Let me just check this. Yeah, that's about it. So we are gonna get out of here. But just to finish off any of your thoughts, who would win, Malta or San Marino? I don't know. Probably be a tough match. Probably could end in a draw. To be honest, could end in a draw. Although I would say Malta could probably win that as well, because San Marino is pretty. They're pretty bad. They're pretty similar to us. So, fans couldn't handle not spending 200 million. Well, the thing is, Grace, like there are some fans out there that they can't. I don't know what it is about like it's like this price, this number obsession. Because for me, if we got like 6 players of decent to / like good quality that are at a good age with a good personality, that have something to offer, whether it's with the system or, you know, individual ability. If we signed 6 players and we spent 120 million, And obviously it depends on the players. Like we would have to specifically name the players. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I want the players. I want the quantity. Um, I want the quantity. Um, it's something very similar to I hear people that they do when they're s- like social media people. Like too many people focus on the quality and not the quantity. When you do more quantity, the quality comes over time, but the quantity is the quantity is what actually helps you grow. It's actually helps you get bigger, and better. Now I don't know if that applies to football, but in my personal mind, for where we are right now, if you told me we signed 7 players that are minimum decent, and maybe there's 2 or 3 that are one step away from being like very good, and we spent 115 million, yeah, I'm not gonna have a problem with that because at the end of the day, we got players to fill the team. I'm not gonna be like, oh, we only spent 115 million. Like, listen, for where we are in the past, you know, like 3 seasons after Fergie. I mean, for me, the biggest thing was under Fergie because we were so good, and I always felt like I used to be jealous of Madrid because I'm like, we're so good, and we're the best team in the world, but like we don't necessarily spend the money that like Real Madrid was spending to get like Galacticos, and I was like, we should be spending more money to get in these higher players. Um, I don't think Ferguson necessarily believed in that, but obviously the Glazers weren't up to that either. And then it shifted the other way, ass backwards when we lost Ferguson, and then we started overspending on ridiculous amounts, and we spent 300 million this season, but spending the 300 million on the season, um, was shit. It was bad spending. So, um, imagine we just bought Osimhen and that's it. Fans would lose their shit. No, yeah. I mean, I would, I would, I would, I would lose my shit too. Probably for the aspect of that, like, because it would be for the aspect of that, like, because I know we need more. Like, we need more. We can't just buy one player. We need more. We need 5 or 6. I think what I'm trying to say, Grace, is like, if we get 5 players that are like not on the name of Osimhen, but we got 5 players in. I think people are going to lose their shit based on the name and like, oh, we signed this guy for 20 million. He's trash because he's worth 20 million and we got him from wherever. Whereas like I'm looking at it as like we get 6 players and they have decent potential and we can grow them and mold them and they're of decent age and they don't have an injury problem and they have some skill about them, they have a good attitude, they have maybe they fit the system well. I'll be encouraged. But it was like if we just signed Osimhen and they were like, yeah, there you go, Ruben, go do a job. I'm gonna come on here and tell you we're absolutely fucked because we can't do that. But I think there's other fans out there that they want like us, like this is their transfer window that they want, and if we don't have this transfer window, they're gonna lose their mind. They want Osimhen, Gaio Keres, Simmons, and like 4 other players like that. You're talking about like spending 375 million, which we can't do, which is never going to happen, and we can't afford it. So like there's fans out there that they're like, if we don't sign Osimhen, Simmons, um, you know, Etikite, and Theo Hernandez or some shit, or and Frimpong, like then it's just a shit window, and they're gonna lose their mind. And it's like you do realize that we literally can't do that. Like we can't afford to do that. And you're saying sign 4 players for 250 million when we can sign like 7 players for 115. Or where we are right now to build out the squad, I would go with the 7 players. And hopefully that would help us enough to do better next season, and then we could go for more higher quality, better players. We could spend a little bit more. Um, and take care of the financials. So, I only want players if they're going to be starters. Well, yeah, I mean, they have to be. I don't think we're looking at all the players that we've gotten in under Ineos. I don't think any one of them is a player that they looked at and they were like, yeah, they're bench. Like they might be on the bench starting, but I think all the players that they brought in, they have the potential to be starters. You know, and I agree with that. You can't, when you go to buy players, you can't just be like, oh yeah, let's buy like 3 bench players. Like, no, you buy them for the hopes that they're gonna, once they come in, they develop a little bit more, they get used to it, and they actually take the starting spot. That's how you build out the squad. So, you know, when I say build out the depth and build out the squad and get some numbers, I'm not saying like get 4 players and they're all gonna be bench and we'll try and learn and grow them. Like, no, these players need to be on the cusp. They need to be like right there. They need to be able to be pushing. Like, yeah, when they come in, they might not go straight into the starting lineup. Maybe they do 2 or 3 weeks. Depends where you get them from. If they're not from the Premier League, they might need an adjustment period. They might go in and out of the squad. They might start some games, then they go to the bench, and then, you know, after a couple weeks, they go back to starting. We need that. I bought 5 players earlier for less than 100 million. Why 5? But why 5 are they all going to be starters? Which positions exactly? Certain players are locked in. Bruno, Garte, Maz, De Ligt, Dorgu. They're locked in, but listen, if you get a player that comes in and he's playing really good, they might not be locked in. I mean, no player should necessarily be locked in. You know, I mean, maybe for like Maz, because if we don't buy any right wing backs, or right-sided players, but I don't even think Maz is necessarily locked in, because again, the competition. What if Delo is playing out of his mind? What if Ahmad is playing out of his mind? They're gonna start over Maz. You know, Bruno, I think there's a problem because we don't really have depth for that, right? We don't have depth for it in that sense. Mount is a player, but Mount is never available. And Dorgu, yeah, he's there, but again, if we get somebody else in there, if they're playing better, then they have to start over them. So, Martinez and Heaven play left center back. Onana isn't leaving. Ahmad plays right wing back. Xerxes in the 10. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm kind of looking at like, okay, I get that, but I'm kind of looking at like, I would like Casemiro to go. I would like, I think Lindelof is gonna go. Eriksen's gonna go. I would move Shaw on, Malacia, Rashford, Anthony. It's at least 7. At least 7. So we have 7 and get 5. You know, or whatever. Like, and those players that we bring in, they got to challenge these players that you're saying that are locked in. So, but listen, Onana is leaving and Garcia is arriving. Well, there was talks about Onana leaving, but listen, we'll talk about it on the next one. We won't stream tomorrow. I'll stream Sunday. So Sunday, at around the same time that we started this stream, 7 p.m. UK time. Wait, are you guys switching the clocks back? I don't even know. We'll figure it out. But if we are realistic, a striker, a left wing back, and a DM. Yeah. And then 1 or 2. I mean, we might need a winger that's kind of like Ahmad, who is a winger but is willing to do the defensive duties as well. So, yeah. But tomorrow, no stream. But we'll stream Sunday, and we'll stream around the same time. So you guys are turning the clocks back, so the time will go back to normal. So, we'll probably do it 8 p.m. UK time then. 8 p.m. UK time on Sunday. But other than that, take care. Thank you, everybody. It was good to speak to all of you. Good to be back, and we'll certainly get back into the flow of things. Especially once we get out of the international break. But it was very good to talk to you guys. It was very good to hear from all of you. Thank you for all the support. Thank you to everybody that smashed the like button to help the channel. Greatly appreciated. And we'll speak on Sunday. Everybody take care. I'm gonna go take care of some things and watch the rest of the the England match. So other than that, take care. We'll speak very soon. And we got some things coming up on the channel as well. I'm gonna be working on the call-in show because we need to get that in. I've been telling you guys that forever, and the Discord. So in the next 2 weeks or so, I should have all that up and running and set up and ready to go. So but for now, we'll talk in Grace's Discord, and then we'll get our Discord ready to go and stuff like that. So cheers, stay safe, be good, and we'll speak and we'll see you all again on Sunday.